GrowCFO is where finance leaders grow together. Join thousands of like-minded professionals using GrowCFO to access the combined knowledge and experience of the finance leader community. You can join us today at growcfo.net. Hello and welcome to the GrowCFO show. I'm your host, Kevin Appleby, and today we're talking about social media profiles, and in particular LinkedIn profiles, which is becoming for us a hot topic since a few weeks ago we launched the GrowCFO job board. So one of our missions in GrowCFO is to help people find new jobs and to help finance leaders recruit people into their teams. So here to help us, Anita Baldwin and Anna Geary, both from the Get Savvy Club. And Anita and Anna are social media coaches.
Hello.
Hi,
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So tell us more about the Get Savvy Club. What do you do?
Shall I do it?
You can say this.
So Get Savvy Club was started by Anna and I about 3.5 years ago, funnily enough, as just another side hustle. So we kind of realised that we had quite complementary skills. My background is just pure marketing at a corporate level, and Anna's is sales, but she's always been a tinkerer with social media. Anna's one of these people that sees a button and presses it and is like doing it before anybody's even figured it's a new feature.
And funnily enough, Kevin, like my background, like the main thing that I did for 17 years before deciding I didn't want to do it anymore and dabble in different things before finding the Get Savvy Club was working in financial recruitment, helping the types of people that listen to these podcasts either find a job or get a great candidate for the job. So yeah, I do really know the importance of how like the industry and how it works, and obviously how social media has really exploded that in terms of from
brilliant.
both sides
And
for both people.
Guess what, Anna? That was exactly why we invited you on the show.
Yeah, good idea. So anyway, continue, Anita, what you were saying.
Thought, okay, we could. I needed, when I left my corporate job, I knew I needed to get out there and go and find some clients. I was going to set up a marketing consultancy going to help small businesses with their marketing. And I knew I needed to market myself. And social media is the best way to do that. But I hadn't done a lot of social media for myself. So although I was very good at marketing myself felt very different to marketing, products and services and banking and consultancy and what I'd done in the past. I kind of realized that if I felt like that, then God knows how many people who didn't have, diplomas in marketing would feel, and not only confused by social media, but not knowing what to do, how to do it, and how to do it without it sucking up all your time and actually getting the results you want while getting on with your day job. So we realized that actually, if we could package this in a step-by-step guide to what to do and what not to do, then we could really help a load of people, complementary skills to do that. So we launched what we called Social Media Made Easy as a 6-week course, and it was just another side hustle that we were going to do under the banner of Get Savvy Club. And that was about 3.5 years ago. And we kind of haven't looked back since, because now it's a 3 to 6 month group program. And it's all about how to get over your imposter syndrome, all the step-by-steps guides that you need to do, how to get the results you want, and how to make it super easy and not take a lot of time. And it's literally all we do now. We don't have any of the other things we used to do. I don't have my consultancy. Anna doesn't have the other things she was doing, because it's just been so needed. And we've worked with some great people and got some great results for them. So that's kind of how we came about and how we are here today.
Brilliant. And in GrowCFO, we work with lots of aspiring CFOs and new CFOs around some of the same things. And we find imposter syndrome is a very, very common problem amongst that community.
I think it's who hasn't got it rather than, has someone got it. I don't think I've never met anyone that doesn't have some form of it.
I was listening, I think it was actually a podcast, funnily enough, and someone said on this podcast, I can't remember which one it was, someone was saying, if you don't have imposter syndrome on some level, that means you're a sociopath. So
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, it probably also means you're battling away with you at the edge of your comfort zone enough as well.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
So, okay, so we're talking specifically here about to finance people who are potentially looking to get a job.
Well, one word, LinkedIn. LinkedIn has got to be your total go-to place, really. If you don't have any, it's important to think about the other social media presence that you have, because your future employer will have a little look at that. But the LinkedIn profile really needs to be strong. It can't just be ignored these days, for sure.
So what does a good LinkedIn profile look like?
Well, funnily enough, LinkedIn used to have almost like a score system where it would they've taken it off now. I don't know why. They don't tell us why things are taken off, but you be able to get yourself an all-star profile, which basically meant you'd filled it all in, because people half do the profile. So making sure that every part of LinkedIn, your LinkedIn profile is filled in, is one half of the job. So it's like with anything, isn't it? Showing up, it's the same thing. If you've taken the time out to actually fill in all of it about yourself, you don't have to put everything, you don't need to put the paper around that you did when you were 13 years old, but you do need to put your experience, a great strong about section. I think main thing to think is it's not necessarily, and people will probably think it is a CV, but it isn't. It's more of a sales page. It's about selling them as an individual to whoever may be looking to employ them, not just, oh, here's my CV, but actually how are you going to stand out from the rest of them?
I think that's a really good point. And the easy way to think about it is people think that their LinkedIn profile is just about them. So if I just tell people what I've done, how I've done it, how many years I've been in that business, what my job titles were, people will get it and they'll see why I'm relevant for them. They'll get it. But you don't, because, there's, what is there now, 900 million people on LinkedIn?
Oh, yeah.
Finance, a lot of them are going to have the same kind of job titles, things like that. So you really need to stand out. So the way to do it, if you're using LinkedIn to market yourself, which is what you should be doing, you've got to think about what it is you're trying to achieve. So the person that you want to give you that dream job that you're looking for, and how can you use your LinkedIn profile to demonstrate that that's what you've got and that's the kind of person you are and those are the skills you've got. And how can you use the different sections to bring that to the forefront so they don't need to wade through and read something for half an hour to actually find that gem that proves you're the one they're looking for, but it actually smacks them in the face from your headline, your experience and your job titles. And, the one sentence you put, the more you put on there, the less readable it becomes, because people think, oh God, that's a big read and I haven't got time. Less really is more, which is often harder to do. But think about it from the point of view of, if I was my ideal recruiter trying to look for a job, what skills do I want to be able to understand within 5 seconds of looking that I've got?
Yeah. Think of yourself. You are the product now.
Yeah.
Yes.
This sounds as harsh as it sounds. And I remember when I very first started in financial recruitment, I'd have people come along and they were looking for jobs. And I think, unfortunately, especially in the world of finance, because usually people were academically sound, so they'd done really well in their GCSEs, their A-levels, then they'd gone on to do their degree in maybe like business and finance, or, finance and accounting, or whatever it may be, then gone on to do ACA or CIMA or ACCA, and it's not their fault, because they're told by lecturers, oh, do well in your exams and you will get a great job. But unfortunately, it is one of the most competitive markets that's out there right now. Every year, I don't know, we're based in Leicester in the UK, and every year there must be thousands of people that graduate with a similar sort of degree, and there aren't all those graduate jobs. This is the missing piece. Well, this is something that can help you massively stand out, because your grades won't get you where you need to be. Just you having the grades is not enough. You need to have the personality, and you need to have so much more about you.
So back in another life, a long time ago, I was actually running one of the graduate recruitment programs in PwC.
Oh, right. You're very competitive.
I didn't get involved in the early bit. I never did any CV sifting. HR had done all of that, but we got groups of people coming to us in assessment centres. And we'd run a full day assessment centre with a group of half a dozen people and literally decide on the spot, yes or no, against those individuals. And I can certainly tell you now, looking at qualifications, degrees, things like that, you could look down the half dozen candidates you're going to see and read all their CVs beforehand. You could start guessing which ones you might be saying yes to and which ones you might be saying no to. Often at the end of the day, you are totally surprised.
Yeah.
The ones you thought, oh, that's a certainty.
And a lot of these people that go into these industries don't think that they'll have to go into a situation where they have to do role play with someone or be assessed on their team skills, and it completely floors them because they've never had to do it before along the way, which is where something is a bit broken in the system, I think, because it'd be better if we could get them prepared for that. But PwC, so competitive. I mean, how many people want to get in there? I mean, by the time you got the list, it'd be interesting to know how many CVs were at the start of the process for each job.
And for our particular program, it was to join the CIMA scheme within management consulting. Normally, we had about, any year it could vary a bit depending on how well the business was doing, but we were looking to take on between 20 and 30 people.
Yeah.
Not
We've
many.
certainly run 7 or 8 assessment centres with at least half a dozen people in each. So just getting to an assessment centre only meant you were 50-50.
Yeah.
And I imagine that prior to that, going through the CV sift and then first interview before the assessment centre, we were probably reducing many, many thousands of initial applicants into the small number that even made it to assessment centre.
Recruitment is an expensive exercise, isn't it? Both in time and money. So you've got to get it right. So if you can demonstrate to somebody that you are a good fit in many different ways, almost your qualifications become just a hygiene factor, don't they? It's about all the other things on top of that. Some people are just hidden gems, and you think, why didn't you tell me that about yourself? Why didn't I know that by looking at your CV? And even just showing things in a way that's really wordy and unfriendly to read, and people don't bother to sift through it and read it, but just how you lay things out. And your LinkedIn profile is no different to that. Don't just put all the words on a page in one big blur, but space it out a bit, make it really easy and friendly to look at in the same way that people do on their websites.
I suppose one of the things that always gets me is that when you go to somebody's LinkedIn profile, usually the first thing you see are images, and you've got 2 opportunities on a LinkedIn profile to put an image. There's the piece that allows you to put a headshot of yourself. And then there's a great big banner behind that.
Your shop window.
How many people leave that banner blank? What would you recommend you put in those image spaces? What should they look like? How professional do they need to be?
Your headshot needs to be a nice, open, friendly picture of you. Don't be looming at the camera. Don't have a friend on holiday with you. Don't have a pint in your hand or a glass of wine or
a fish
or a shot. It just needs to be a nice friend. It doesn't have to be one of those corporate, I'm perched on the edge of a desk looking important shots, but just, nice, friendly shot of you, an up-to-date one as well. Some people have been accused of, putting 20-year-old pictures on there, and by the time you get them on a Zoom, you're like, oh,
who are you?
I think I better go and change my picture on LinkedIn.
So you don't have to look like a supermodel, but you do need to look like you.
An approachable version of you, like they said, really approachable. But how you would stroll into that first interview that you went into, that's what you want it to look like, really. And then it's a really tricky one, in terms of the real estate that's the banner across the top, which was
a huge amount of space.
Because
way bigger than the profile picture.
We usually help people with businesses. So it's a completely different thing. We're thinking about what's the outcome that they want in terms of what do they want the person that's seen it to do. With somebody looking for a job, obviously, if you're in a job and you don't want people to know that you're looking for a job, it's not a good idea to put on your banner that you're looking for a job and all singing or dancing, is it? So, but then if you're new and
but also it's your main message though, isn't it? So if it's your shop window, it's your elevator pitch, your main message. So if you have something that you specialize in, for example, you've been in management consultancy for many years, or finance for the pharmaceutical industry or something like that, put that on there. Get maybe another nice picture of you or something that represents your industry, and put some keywords on there that represent how you specialize, so that if somebody is looking for someone who has a lot of experience or wants to get into pharmaceutical finance or whatever that thing is, they can see at a glance, oh, you're that person for me. And again, they don't need to sift through all of your experience to see, but it might make them go, I'll have a look at a little bit more about them in their profile. So what's the thing that's, like we said before, what's the thing that's going to attract your employer, your potential employer to you? What is the thing they're looking for, and how can you demonstrate you've got that? And your banner is your prime real estate place to do that from the first point. And you can change your banner frequently. So, if you're looking for a job in X, change your banner to put these words on it. If you change your mind on that, change your words for those. But I think that's way more valuable than just putting, the open to work thing on your profile.
I don't think that looks good. That looks a bit desperate, but
it does.
But as well,
the work to me tends to suggest that the person that's there has been made redundant or has left their organisation and they're desperately looking for a new job. So that's the reason I'd always avoid that.
Because it looks like you're
I wouldn't put one on.
You're like a pichon. It's like it's easier to get a job if you're in a job, isn't it? It's the same sort of thing. If you're open to work, then you're just shouting that. But I would say as well, in the banner, you could think about your achievements that you've had. So perhaps if you've done something over and above what the average person's done in a particular role, then you can include. You've got to be careful, because you don't want to just look like, hey, look at me. But then at the same time, it makes people sort of think, oh, okay, first time passes, or that they were maybe the top in their, I don't know, in their year at something. But because we say to the businesses that we speak to, if you've been fortunate enough to be in any publications and things, we almost have like a banner, on the banner, which is like a vanity, we call it a vanity wall, which for us, we've been on the BBC, we've got like our podcast is out on Spotify and Amazon and all. So we use those logos because that's a bit like as seen on, that kind of a thing. So if they could have a think about that as well, they could incorporate that. So if they've had an article published in a relevant publication to do with the industry, that could be worthwhile putting on there as well.
But I think the thing to point out is, if you use your banner correctly in this way, you should look at it and slightly cringe, because it is going to be a bit braggy. It is going to be like all about me, the me show, and it is going to be like highlighting your best features. And we don't naturally do that in this country. And, you know, people with a bit of imposter syndrome don't want to go out with a big banner going, hey, I'm really good at this. But if you don't say it about yourself, nobody else is going to say it, and your potential employers aren't going to know it unless somebody tells them. So kind of get over yourself, cringe at it, but still do it anyway.
Now, as well, going back to that marketing piece, if you're looking at a web page, it's what's above the fold that's important.
Yeah.
And what's above the fold in LinkedIn. And there are probably 4 things on most people's profile. Number 1 is the headshot. Number 2 is this great big banner area. Number 3 is the headline.
Yeah.
Name and then there's the subtext that goes underneath the headline. You've got to get those 4 things right to persuade somebody to scroll further down.
To go further, yeah. And it's worth us talking a little bit actually about headlines, because if you don't change that space that's got the headline and you just leave it as it is, it will just say you may have seen it, it just says your name, and then it will just say your job title and where you work. So if you are a management accountant for a particular company, it will just literally say, I don't know, part qualified management accountant. That's all it will say. It won't say anything else. Whereas when we work with people, we ask them to think about that and what the person reading it they want to see. So it could be that we have a bit of a structure, don't we, Anita? Which you always remember the structure better than me. I know when I'm doing it, but it's like helping whoever do X by whatever method. And you could use the same thing as well if you're looking for a job, but you don't obviously say you're looking for a job if you don't want your employers to know. But if whatever you do within your work, you could put that there, because you've got lots more character than just putting your actual name and what like title. So explain to the person reading it what it is you do. So if you help your particular business save X amount of tax using this particular method, then you could include that as well.
So for me, working in GrowCFO, it would be something like, and I can't remember what's on my LinkedIn profile, it probably needs updating. It'd be something like helping the next generation of finance leaders be brilliant.
Yeah,
something
exactly.
Like
And then a method as well.
Yes.
By offering them, Because sometimes if we don't understand something, we don't approach and ask, because we all have a fear of looking like an idiot. If you think, well, the method might not be for me, but I don't know what the method is, so I just won't ask and I'll keep scrolling, although I want that outcome and I am in that market. So it's always good to make really clear how you'll do that with somebody.
It's probably worth saying at this point, there are probably going to be 3 different groups of people are going to come to your LinkedIn profile. Number 1 is going to be the headhunter, who might have a vacancy and they're looking for somebody. So they will probably find you as a result of keyword searches. A given is all the keywords have got to be in there.
Yeah.
Number 2,
and actually we've got a good tip for that. We can tell you when you finish.
Yeah. Number 2 is somebody you've commented on somebody's post, or you've posted something on LinkedIn or whatever, and therefore somebody clicks through to your profile and says, who is this person that's commented? Or number 3 is the future employer or whoever that has got the shortlist from the recruiter and is starting to sift through that list of candidates. I think it's worth remembering you've got to appeal to all 3. And that's one reason this is not just your CV. All 3 are going to be looking for something different.
Yeah, and it's worth thinking that the latter category, if you've got nowadays, how it works is if you're a recruiter or you're in a company trying to recruit somebody and you get a good CV, the first thing you do is go online to look them up and find out a bit more about them, add some flesh to the bones, if you like. So they might go to your LinkedIn profile and they might look at your activity and the same with Facebook, and just scroll through your last 10, 15 posts and see what it says about you. One of the exercises we give our clients to do is to say, do the same on your own LinkedIn and Facebook and look at that. So, for example, Anna says these people probably that are our clients will have their own business, and look through your last 10 or 15 posts as if you're someone who doesn't know you. Can you even tell what you do from that? Or are you just posting about places you're going, food you're eating, or God forbid, just resharing other people's posts and industry articles? Or is there a way for a potential employer to really get a feel for you, the things you enjoy doing, your knowledge and skills, your passion, why you love doing, what you do as a job and things like that, and so that they can think, actually, this is the kind of person we want in our business. Always have that in mind and think about that as you're going through and posting. So it's not just about your profile, it's about your output through there as well.
And this is where it comes to mind of what you think about putting on LinkedIn. I always say to people, yeah, you want to post about work things, you want to post about what you want to be famous for, but please put some personal stuff on there as well.
Yeah. Glad you say that. Yeah. And we had somebody, we
You're
talked.
not going to show yourself dancing on a table on an office night out, but you are going to show some other stuff, turn you from just a face into an individual.
That make you three-dimensional. Yeah. So we give various talks, and one of the comments we got at one of them recently, one of the questions is, isn't LinkedIn just a professional platform, and you shouldn't be, it's not Facebook, you shouldn't be posting that kind of stuff? And our answer always is, I worked in corporate for nearly 30 years, 25 years, and I absolutely didn't just talk about my job and the company when I was there. I talked about what I had for dinner the day before, where I was going on holiday, what I was doing, and that's how I formed relationships with people at work, and that's how I was better at my job, because I knew who to speak about what and to get the job done, and it made it enjoyable as well. And absolutely use LinkedIn in the same way. Prove that you're someone they want in your business as an all-round.
There's an element of understanding what your values are, and potentially understanding what the values of the sort of organisation you want to work for are.
Yeah. What I would say as well, though, if I was looking to recruit someone and I looked at their LinkedIn profile, I'd look at their activity as in, like, not just what they're posting out, but what they're commenting on other people's as well. And also, like, what sort of things are they commenting? Like, is it negative? Is it positive? But also not just that, but how much are they on there? So if I'm paying you to do a job Monday to Friday, 9 till 5 or whatever, I don't want to be seeing you interacting all day.
Point, yeah.
Be like, hang on a second,
9 to 5, they're constantly on LinkedIn.
They're constantly on. Great guy, but when does he actually finish it again? When does he actually get any work done? So just be mindful of that as well. If you're supposed to be working, how much time would you? It'd be great actually if they could see a little bit of maybe 8 in the morning, and then to make 12:15. Something out of hours, so that person's really focused.
And also, LinkedIn is not a no-go area at the weekend at all. The weekend is a lot of people who are busy in the week think, well, I'll catch up on LinkedIn, or are bored at home, with their family or whatever, and go on LinkedIn, and it's just as busy there at the weekend than it is Monday to Friday. Absolutely.
Yeah. Another thing that you need to use, not just about setting up and all about you and your profile looking great, but is, if you are, fortunate enough to get an interview, you need to go and you need to be stalking them people that are going to be interviewing you. You need to find them on LinkedIn, connect with them, have a look, because if you've bothered to do it, you want them to see yours, right? So go on there, connect with them. They'll look at yours at least. Then you can think, oh, they've seen a bit about me. Then you can get on there and, just have a look, because there might be something they do. Maybe they're a member of Rotary or something, and so was your dad. And the same way, you've got to build rapport fast, and you've got to work with whatever you've got, really. So or you may both follow the same influencer, or you may both be passionate about a certain charity or something. If you can look through and see if there is any common ground there, it may not be, but at least you can be forewarned, if you like, and know.
Yeah. And they'll see on LinkedIn, you can see who's looked at your profile. So they will see that you've been looking at their profile. And if they've got 10 interviews that day and one person's bothered to look up all the different people in the business and look at their profile and look at what they do and how they promote the business through LinkedIn, you've got to go into that interview streets ahead of anybody else already. Yeah.
And you'll ask better questions as well, because you can say, hey, I see you were
at this exhibition last week. How did that go for the business?
Yeah, or you started out in Deloitte or whatever it may be. And they'll be like, oh, this person's interested in me. People like to talk about themselves. Gives you a bit of pressure off in the interview as well, letting them talk about themselves for a bit rather than you. And it's like, oh, time up. When do I start? Exactly. Yeah. So think about, don't just use it just for don't be so internally focused on it. Look outwards as well.
And it might give you a flavour of the business And you can kind of work out, is it the kind of place you want to work as well? Because the interview is a two-way process, isn't it? And it's for the interviewee to decide if that's the business that they want to actually work at as well. Because God forbid you get a job and then you absolutely hate it and have to keep swapping. That doesn't look great on your CV either. So you've got that short interview time to judge them and the environment and the culture and see if it's somewhere that you want to be.
Yeah, we had someone, when I had the recruitment business, we had somebody come in for an interview. And we were interviewing them, and I said, "Oh, why do you want to work with us? What do you like about what you found out about?" And he said, "Oh, well, I see that you do all these things in the office." And basically, they already had seen the vibe of us, because so into obviously social media, we'd had so many different things that were going out on the actual company profile, but also on our individual profiles about, if somebody's birthday, you had a cake, and we messed around. We went on like a corporate date. We all went there was where we worked. There was a indoor golfing place, and we used to go there, and obviously we put pictures of that up so you could see if it was the environment for you or not. Just like that person had actually gone and looked at our Instagram, gone and looked at our Facebook, gone and looked at our LinkedIn and individual profiles, and was aware of that, and thought that I was a little bit like, oh, okay, it's not all fun here, we have to do some work. They thought they could fit into the culture.
Yeah, and that's very important. Common values are really really vital to get right. And I think if you look at the vast majority of organizations, the high performers in those organizations are the ones where their personal values are a very, very close match to the organization's values.
Yeah, definitely.
We've talked about pictures, we've talked about headlines, we've talked about being not overwordy on there. We've talked about perhaps meeting the pain point that the reader might have a problem with to show how you solve it and your solution. But you've got loads of gaps going down that LinkedIn profile to talk about your career history. Who have you worked for? What did you do in the job? How much would you be putting in that section? How far back would you go?
Don't go too far back, because it's just too much for people to look at. I don't think you need to go any further back than 10 years, really. But if you've worked somewhere for 15 years, then of course have the job previous to that as well. But really, the last 10 years is all you need. But depending what you want to do moving forward will dictate what you want to include in there. Because if you know you're looking for your next job, you want it to have X amount day to day in it, then try and showcase that you've got those skill sets in the jobs before. So they can think, oh, look, they've used that particular software, or, oh, they've already done a project like this, and kind of leave out the things that you want to leave behind. You can touch on them, but like Anita said earlier, less is more. People are not going to spend a long time looking at your LinkedIn profile. So fill it in with what's relevant, but don't over egg it. And make sure, you'll be surprised the amount of people forget to put the contact details on it. So you go into contact and they've just got their LinkedIn profile as their only contact. Well, we're in that already. We're there. So you need to have your email on there. You don't have, this day and age, you don't need to have your mobile number on there, but the best email, definitely. And then if you use in a really good way an Instagram account or Facebook, whatever, you can add those into there as well, in your Twitter too. So depending what you're comfortable on sharing, but make sure there's a way they can contact you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's obvious things like that, isn't it, that often get missed.
Yeah, and make sure that your profile is set to public so people can find you too. Because if you've got it all closed down, that only people that are connected to you can see, you're not going to get the eyeballs on you either, from the recruiters or from the people that are interviewing you.
LinkedIn is clearly the first place people are going to go to, but people are going to look at Facebook too and things like that. Any advice for how you should be dealing with your Facebook profile? Because people will start stalking you on there.
Yeah, one of the things we say a lot is that you can't choose how people will look you up. So you might say, well, I want people to look at my LinkedIn profile and make that the best it could ever be. And then someone decides to look you up on Facebook and you're there drunk, falling out the pub or whatever. Oh, well, that's my personal Facebook. That's not professional. You can't choose how people will look for you. So as a minimum, make sure there is consistency. So don't be one person on LinkedIn, completely different person on Facebook. Make sure that see that you are that person, you are consistent, you are what you say you are, and also just keep it professional on there. Yes, Facebook is, I guess, slightly more personal than LinkedIn, but if you are looking for a job, then keep it professional. Make sure that on whatever platform that person, recruiter, employer, whatever, chooses to come and look you up, you are portraying the kind of person that they would want to work for their business. Definitely.
I suppose that comes back to a question here, Anita. How do you determine what your own brand is? That's at the very start of this process, isn't it?
Yeah, and it is a really good question, because you have to very deliberate about that. Just on a really basic level, think about what the kind of words you want people to think about when they look at anything to do with you. So when they Google you, when they look at your Facebook, when they look at your LinkedIn, what are the kind of words you want to be going through people's heads? And if you're looking for a decent job in finance, they're probably things like professional, well-rounded, approachable, well-qualified, experienced, all things like that. So at a glance, have a look at yourself and work out, and ask somebody else, ask a friend, or a 10-year-old's a good one as well. Can people even understand, or are you so into acronyms and different terms that maybe other finance people might understand, but it maybe not in your industry, that other people can't really understand? And one of the things that Anna says a lot is, if you haven't deliberately picked what your personal brand is, it will get chosen for you. Yeah. So
we say a lot. We speak at a lot of events, don't we? And we when we're at front of the stage, we say to people, like, if you haven't created and cultivated your brand yourself, Google yourself, because there is your brand that you have no control over if you haven't. So just put if you've got quite a common name, or even if your name's not so common, wherever you're from, so put your name and then the town that you're in, and just see what comes up. And you might actually be a little bit shocked. You might be like, oh my God, I can't believe I created that. What was that thing years ago? What was it? MySpace, old MySpace popping up. Not that would do, but oh wow, I can't believe I did that, had that Instagram account all that time ago, and it's still actually live out there, but it may have been from your uni days when you were happy to go around with, I don't know, a traffic cone on your head, whereas that's very much not you now. So it is a good one to do. Google yourself and then have a look. But if you don't decide, then whatever other people will put out there is what is out there of you. So it's important. And if you don't want your grandma seeing it, I would say don't put it out there. People find things that you've got. You can't be.
The internet has a very long memory.
Yeah, yes. Exactly.
The other thing that's really important.
Good idea, the grandma test.
Yeah.
The other thing that's really important is to think about what other people say about you. So on LinkedIn, there's a fantastic feature of recommendations. So you could use LinkedIn to actually get that platform to go and ask for recommendations from people that you may have worked with, you may have worked for, or you managed, or what have you. And you can build up, a great profile of what other people say about you, which is really important to do as well. And we had one client who was a virtual CFO, came to us because he'd been so busy, and then he'd kind of let all of his social media slide, looking for more work. And one of the things we said to do is go and give some recommendations from people you used to work with, because the best way to get recommendations is to give recommendations.
Of course.
So we said, do that. He did it to one person, and on the first day we worked with him, who then went, oh yeah, I remember you. Actually, we're looking for someone, and gave him an 18-month contract. And so we were like, well, still do the work, because the 18 months will go.
We should have charged him on a percentage of their.
Yeah,
what he got.
Then, once the 18 months is gone, you don't want to be back in this position. So build, that's a great time to build up your connections and your LinkedIn profile and all of that. But yeah, great. Well done. Sometimes it's just reminding people you're there.
Something that is useful about social media is, as you've gone along, you've probably connected with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Worked with, that you've got to know because of a project or something like that. There is something there, isn't there, about keeping those connections warm?
I worked in a lot of different businesses. I don't think I've had an interview since I was about 24 years old. I've just been offered jobs from various people I've worked with before that have said, oh, this opportunity, we need you to come. And I've gone, okay. And LinkedIn is just a version of that on steroids, if you like, where you can keep in touch with people and they can see what you're doing and if you're relevant. And we know when, we've been in businesses, I was in many businesses trying to look for staff. It's actually a hard thing to do, to go and find someone really credible. So if you've worked with someone in the past, they've been good at their job, you've enjoyed working with them, bringing them on board is, a tick, because it's a no-brainer, versus someone who you don't know, who might not work out. And so it's a really good way to stay in touch, like you say, with people you've worked with before.
Yeah, and if you haven't got a history, the thing is, the older you get, the better it is, because obviously there's all these different people you've worked with, and it doesn't matter if it's not relevant to what you're doing now, because they can give you that you are a reliable, honest person, fun in the office, whatever it is, whatever your attributes are, they can actually say that regardless of whether it's something you're moving into. But if you're new, don't have that, you can still ask people in other capacities.
Oh, you can get your professor at university or someone from any different job, or it doesn't have to be someone you work for. There's when you scroll on recommendations, and there's a big long tick list of how you knew that person. And then, all manner of people can give you recommendations. That's invaluable. If someone is talking about how great they are and they've not got a single recommendation, I'd be like, No one else seems to think this of you.
And I think as well, make sure those recommendations are recent.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah.
I've got recommendations on my profile that probably go back to the last full-time consultancy firm that I work for. And gosh, that's over 10 years ago.
Well, it's like when you go out for a curry or, to a restaurant, it says voted best restaurant 2016. You're like, okay.
It's
going downhill ever since.
Yeah.
And it's probably changed owners 3 times since then.
Yes. Yeah. Nothing to shout about anymore.
Is there anything else that we should be thinking about around LinkedIn that we haven't covered?
I think that's an awful lot of people to be getting on with. And if they do all of that, tick all of that off, then they'll be streets ahead, definitely.
Absolutely. So
it's worth actually thinking. There's a part on there called featured post. You had, and also your media and things. So coming back to what we spoke about, if you've had an article published in a particular, something that you want to shout about or something that you want to brag about, you can do a post around that, or a testimonial. Maybe someone's done you a recommendation and it's great. You can create a post about that, and then you can actually pin it to the top, and that's called featured. And then when people, like you say, they'll see the top of above the fold first. If they do scroll down a little bit, they will see that featured post, and that's going to be near the top as well. So have a think about what you'd quite like them to read first about you. Which
is very useful if you're on LinkedIn a lot. For instance, I would be, because we'll put a podcast out every week. So I'll be in there commenting on the podcast post that GrowCFO have put out. I could well be in there communicating with other people that we know. And it could be very easy for any of the decent stuff to be way back in my history of activity on LinkedIn. So that featured item is a really useful one to remember. Make sure it's the first thing that people see.
You sound like you've forgotten about that one, Kevin.
I'm going to go and do this now. I don't think I've got anything in there.
You're going to go and get those better ones.
This is the great thing about podcasting. You learn something new every time you record a show.
We love our podcast. We have a podcast, and it's great. The different people, just reminding yourself of things, or relearning things, or new books that people recommend that you would never have picked up yourself, but someone said, no, it's the best book ever. I'll give it a go then. It's like, actually, that was pretty good. So there's lots. And it's worth actually thinking, don't be so passive about your recruitment search either, your search for your new job, because the better companies, it's going to be harder for you to get into. You can actively go out there and start. If you know, maybe there's a company in your town and you're like, I would love to get a job there. You can actually go out, you can search for that company on LinkedIn in that area, and you can go and you can connect with the vital people in there. You don't want to go too far. You don't want to be stalking. But if you're starting to connect with those people, and then you ring their bell, so there's a bell on there, and you see every post that they put out, and you're liking it, commenting on it, they can't help but not notice you. And then you can actually be reaching out to them at some point and letting them know, hey, I've always loved the sound of working for your company. I don't know if you're looking at the moment. Let me know if there's anything coming up, and you'll be remembered by them. So
and you can't be offended by that, can you? Even if there's nothing, you say thanks, but no thanks. You can't. You just think, oh, what a great self-starter. You've
got to keep knocking them doors till they open. Exactly. So if you know you want to get into somewhere.
In my part of the world, in Geordieland, we've got an expression that says shy Ben's getting out.
Exactly. That's a good one.
If you're shy, if you don't ask, you won't get.
Don't ask, you don't get.
If anybody's listening to this and they want to reach out to us and give us our thoughts or whatever, you can of course contact us, connect with us on LinkedIn, and we'd love to hear some feedback.
Brilliant. Thank you, Anita. That has been fantastic. Thank you for being this week's guests on the GrowCFO show.